Hello, this is Magnolia Mo, and you are watching my channel on YouTube. I'm happy to share with you today my thoughts and my review of the Bowers & Wilkins 702 S2 loudspeakers. As you're aware, audio is very subjective, so what you're going to hear in this video are my thoughts and my impressions only. Okay, let's go over some specifications. The 702 S2s are a three-way vented box loudspeaker. For drive units, you have a 1-inch decoupled carbon dome tweeter, 6-inch woven continuum cone FST mid-range unit, and 3 6.5-inch aerofoil profile woofers, along with a flow port that's in the back of the speaker. So these are rear ported. The 1-inch decoupled carbon dome tweeter sits in a solid body tweeter housing. The tweeter housing was milled from a solid block of aluminum, and this design creates an acoustically optimized housing for the tweeter, one that's exceptionally inert and resistant to resonances. The carbon dome tweeters are purpose-built for the 700 series, delivering a dramatic improvement on the aluminum double dome tweeter. They raise the breakup threshold to 47 kHz for pinpoint imaging, accuracy, and detail. The voices and instruments are delivered with purity and precision thanks to the smooth, accurate continuum cone mid-range driver. The mid-range drivers in these towers feature a decoupled design adopted from the similar 800 series diamond speakers that B&W has. Decoupling reduces cabinet coloration, boosts mid-range clarity, and produces truly amazing mid-range. The three aerofoil profile woofers work in tandem with that rear ported, the flow port as they call it, on the back of the speaker. For frequency range, the speakers are rated at 28 Hz to 33 kHz at -6 dB. The frequency response is 46 Hz to 28 kHz, plus or minus 3 dB on reference axis. The sensitivity is 90 dB, which means you are going to need a good, powerful solid state amplifier to drive these speakers. Impedance is 8 ohms nominal, 3.1 ohms minimum. Recommended amplification is 30 to 300 watts into 8 ohms on unclipped program. For dimensions, including the plinth, tweeter, grill, I'm not using the plinth in this particular case. The speakers are 42.8 inches high by 14.4 inches wide by 14.3 inches deep. They weigh 65 pounds, so they're not light, which is good. The finishes, available finishes for this speaker are rose nut, gloss black, satin white, cabinet only, and then gray, black, satin white grills. At the time of this review, these speakers now are retailing at $47.99 per pair. When they first came out 4 years ago, they were $4,500 a pair, and then the price kept on going up over the last year and a half to $59.99 for the pair. And that's it. So that's about it for the specifications. Time to get started with some tests, listening tests, and some put these speakers through my regular playlists, and let's go. So why did I go with the Bowers & Wilkins 702 S2s? I used to have an all Martin Logan setup, and I love the wall of sound that my Martin Logan Theos created for music. So I wanted to, when I was moving away from Martin Logan, I wanted to actually try some other brands. Having sold the Bowers & Wilkins myself, I'm very familiar with the 700 series sound. My friend has the 800 series 802 D3s, and obviously they're in a different ball game altogether, but I wanted a similar sound, right? So I actually My original plan was to get the 804s, 804 D3s or the 804 D4s to actually integrate in my theater, and I ended up, getting these only because of the deal that I just got, right? So I could tell you the differences between 804 and the 702, or I should say 702 S2s and the 804 D3s are more similar than different, right? So when I say that, what I mean is the differences are in the high end, in the very high top end, and in the very low end. And you're hard pressed. You have to really listen to actually be able to pick up that difference, right? So they're very similar, 804s and 702s. That's why for the price, I couldn't turn it down, and that's why I ended up going with these. I did have 805 D3s in my theater along with the CT 7.4s last year for a few months, and I love the obviously the 805s. They're awesome for music, and I love the high end. I love the mid range on those speakers. It's just that they didn't go low enough for me, and they didn't play loud enough for me. And that's why I sold them. I got rid of them, and I was just waiting to kind of get the 804s if I got a good deal. But instead, I ended up getting a deal on these. So these are here to stay. To evaluate these speakers, I turned to my trusted Stereophile Test CD3, which is this right here. There are a number of tracks on this disc that actually help you evaluate, help you what to listen to when you're listening to a particular track, and evaluate, subjective evaluation obviously, but evaluate what you're hearing and the overall quality of the sound from the particular speaker. 80 hertz. This is where there is a roll off of about 10 dBs, probably my room. .63, as you can see, it goes back up. 31.5 hertz. And 20 hertz. So this is where it basically drops off. Here is the in-room frequency response using the Omni mic. As you can see, the bass roll off on these speakers starts at about under 30 hertz. The first track that I listened to from the Stereophile Test CD3 was track 5, History Repeats Itself by Sarah K. It is from her album, Play on Words. It is 5 minutes and 54 seconds long. The album Play on Words is by Chesky Records, JD105. Composer is Sarah K. What you should hear on this track is musicians playing acoustic instruments in a real space. So rather than sounding like textured white noise, the cymbals should all sound different from one another. The brush snare drum should be heard illuminating the acoustic, while the kick drum supplies the musical punctuation and should be delicately outlined rather than being indistinct sounding boom or thud. So next I moved to track 4 by Dick Hyman. It is Topsy, and it's an all-digital recording. It's 6 minutes and 11 seconds long. It's HD/CD encoded from the album From the Age of Swing. Composers are Edgar Battle, Eddie Durham. Musicians is Dick Hyman on piano, Butch Miles on drums, and Bucky Pizzarelli on rhythm guitar. What you should listen for on this track the drums should be well set back behind the plane of the loudspeakers. The double bass should have a richness and roundness to its tones, and Dick Hyman's jabs on the piano should be almost icy in their clarity. and to a point where, you know, as you're listening to the track, you, like I said, you get transported, you know, to being there with the musicians in this real space playing acoustic instruments. I've I've demoed this track many times, you know, while demoing speakers, and it's a fun track to demo. You can basically predict to your customer or to your listener what you should hear, and then you love their reaction. You know, once you stop the track and you ask them, what did you hear, and they'll tell you exactly what you had told them what they should be hearing. I mean, it is that clear and it is that great of a track to demo. The B&Ws, the 702 S2s, again, you know, stellar job with this track as well. I then switched to some Tidal MQA recordings. One of my favorite album on Tidal is Ella and Bassie from I believe it's a recording from 1963, and it's available in the MQA format on Tidal. It's 192 kilohertz, 24-bit audio. Ella, you know, Queen of Jazz, or Lady Ella as she's known, was noted for the purity of her tone and her phrasing and horn-like improvisational ability, right? And you get all of that on the 702 S2s. And similarly on Tidal, I also listened to Moondance by Van Morrison. That also is an MQA version on Tidal. It is 192 kilohertz, 24-bit audio using the MQA format. The track that I love listening to or auditioning on speakers is Crazy Love. The bullhorn on that track is set back from the rest of the music as the song is playing, and then obviously Van Morrison's voice is typical, and that comes through on the 702s, the bullhorn, the voice, and then just the rhythm of that song. Again, the 702s, in my opinion, did a great job portraying the soundstage on Moondance by Van Morrison as well. To round off the review, I turned to 4K Blu-ray discs. I watched quite a few movies, but the two that I'm going to mention, one of them is one of my favorite movies that I watch all the time. It has the rewatchability factor for me. Again, it is me, right? Because I've heard of people trash The Amazing Spider-Man 2 all over the place. But I don't care. I love the soundtrack on that movie. Hans Zimmer did a great job with the overall soundtrack, and then Dolby Atmos on The Amazing Spider-Man, especially in that Times Square scene with Jamie Foxx. He's incredible as well in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. He did a great job as Electro. So when Electro makes his first appearance in that Times Square scene, the voices that are in his head, they are everywhere. They're above you, they're around you, they're in front of you, and I like playing that scene because of the constant musical score that's going on in the background in that scene. So I thoroughly enjoyed watching that clip.
Blueprints. Yes, I remember you. Of course I remember. You're my engineer. What's your name again?
How could you forget me?
Oh, I do. I know it. Don't tell me.
It's Max.
Is it Max?
Yes.
And then the other movie that I want to mention. was Midway. So Midway, if you, as you would know, that the first scene, not the first scene, but beginning of the movie, the Pearl Harbor attack, when that is going on, there is a 30 hertz constant bass sweep. So I ran that scene with just the 702 S2s, nothing else, just in stereo, because I wanted to see the overall bass response. You know, if somebody just was to just get these two speakers, would these speakers do a good job with the sound staging, right? And true to form, the sound stage was wide, it was high, and the 30 hertz tones were audible, were deep, not as deep obviously as my SVS SB16 Ultra and the SB 3000 combination, right? But still, for a pair of stereo speakers, the sound stage was incredible. It was, you know, dialogue was centered with just running the two stereo speakers, and then the attack and the planes, you know, flying over. Obviously, I'm not hearing them over my head like I would, you know, using the Dolby Atmos setup, but you know, you can get the sense, you know, that there's stuff flying over you and around you with just the two of those speakers. So the speakers, you know, obviously if you have the full setup with the matching center channel and the 705s for your surrounds, I believe, you know, it will be a kick-ass system, and one that I might actually consider getting. And in my setup currently, you know, just with the 702 S2s running, you know, my front lefts and rights along with the CT7.4, it is still very, very, very good. The CT7.4s do match fairly well with the 702 S2s in my opinion. So there you have it. It is, you know, it is a rather long video, but I wanted to do justice, right, for this review. I wanted to be as detailed as possible. I took, you know, went through a lot of cuts, you know, a lot of versions, you know, of this video to see which one would fit, you know, in the allotted time that I had in mind. I hope you liked the video. And if you like it, please subscribe, please leave me comments, and I will, you know, do my best to reply, and you know, subscribe, and look forward to more reviews such as this one. Thank you.